Buongiorno, buongiorno, good morning. This is the original birth certificate of Vivaldi, and it states that his father was a musician. It's got the name of his mother and his grandmother, but the important thing is that it says that as he was in danger of death, it was the midwife that baptized him. 2 months later, on the 6th of May, he was brought into the church for what we call the supplementary ceremony of baptism. We're in this church of San Giovanni in Bragora because this was the church where Vivaldi grew up. He spent 27 years of his life in this church. Now, we don't know whether he played the organ or not. It's more than likely that he did. Now, a mistake that's always made by everybody is that it's said that Vivaldi was baptized in this church. In fact, he wasn't, as I explained when we looked at the birth certificate. Now then, this is the font where he was brought 2 months after his birth and given the holy oils and the exorcisms. Now, in fact, this is the original font. This is Marmo di Verona. It's red marble from Verona. In fact, in his day, this font was not there, but it was over there where the confessional is now. You see, really, people don't know much about Vivaldi. A lot of books have been written about him, but unless you do research, you can't either understand his life or understand him, or the Venice that he lived in. You have to see the documents to really get right underneath the surface. People tend to make up things, they make up stories, they think, oh well, he did this, we think he did that, we think he went there. Instead of thinking, in fact, don't think at all. Just read documents, just understand. Now, we're sitting outside Vivaldi's house, and the family moved here in 1705 when Vivaldi was 27. And what they rented was house and shop, as the Venetians call it, casa e bottega. And his father was a barber as well as a violinist. So he had his barber shop here, and living in the house was Mum, Dad, 3 brothers, 3 sisters, and Vivaldi. Now, they lived here for 5 years until 1710. Then they left, and 1710 is a mystery year. We don't know where he went, what happened to the family. Then they moved to the next house in 1711, and they stayed there for 11 years. And it was in this house here that he wrote the Gloria, the famous Gloria, a lot of his sacred music, and all the early works. We're standing in front of the church where he said his first Mass. Now, he trained for 10 years to become a priest. I did a survey of how many boys from the start of the priesthood to the end finished the 10-year period, and there was only one, and that was Vivaldi. And his sacred music conveys the intense spirituality that he had. And any expert on the music of Vivaldi will tell you that his sacred music is a gear above all the other music that he wrote. He was ordained at the age of 25. He said his first Mass here. Now, as we know, after 3 years, he had to give up saying Mass. This we know because there's a letter in which he states that. Now, people have misunderstood this very badly. They've said stupid things like Vivaldi was excommunicated, Vivaldi was thrown out of the church. That's all stupid. And in actual fact, he gave up saying Mass of his own testimony due to his illness of tightness in the chest. When a priest says Mass, it is not an obligation, it's a power. The only obligation a priest has is to say the divine office 2 or 3 times a day, which in fact he did. So when you're a priest for life. It's not as if you give up being a priest. And he stuck to the duty that a priest had. We're very close to another house where Vivaldi lived, which is just down there, which we'll go to in a minute. But first of all, I want to give you an idea of this campo that Vivaldi saw, okay? Now then. That door there, that green door, used to be where a mattress maker lived and a battiore, a gilder. Where the chemist is, that was always a chemist. Where the bar is, was a fruit store, fruit and vegetable. This campo, the church, all these palaces here are exactly the same as when Vivaldi was here. Come on. This is the third house that Vivaldi lived in. They came here in 1722, and in fact, it was this house that Vivaldi lived in when The Four Seasons was published. When he lived here from 1722 to 1730. And that was really the peak period of his music. A lot of his operas, the concertos for Anna Maria, his concertos for multi-strumenti, the 3 serenatas that he wrote for the French ambassador, But also this was a sad house for them because this is where his mother died. And in fact, a couple of years later, they left this house. She died in 1728 and they left in 1730. This house here was the last house that Vivaldi lived in. And they moved here in 1730 and they stayed exactly 10 years to 1740. Now, in 1736, Vivaldi's father died here. And in fact, the relationship between Vivaldi and his father, it was very close. And Vivaldi couldn't really live without his father. His father was a very astute and clever and cunning businessman. Vivaldi was not that. His father was also like his minder, his manager. We know that he also copied his music, and when they went abroad, his father always went with him. His father would have done all the travel arrangements. When his father died, Vivaldi really fell to pieces. He wanted to do 3 operas in Ferrara, and that was a disaster because at that time there was, to make matters worse, there was a ban by Cardinal Ruffo on all priests doing opera. And this Cardinal Ruffo was in Ferrara. Now, that's another part of Vivaldi's life that has been so badly misinterpreted that people write, oh, Vivaldi was banned from opera. Vivaldi was not banned from opera. It was a general ban on all priests. Vivaldi, he quarrelled with several people. He quarrelled with some of the musicians. And he just couldn't get it together. He just couldn't do business. So he made just a mess. Anyway, he left in May 1740 for Vienna, or Vienna bound. And he never returned. One thing about Vivaldi is that he saw music, didn't only hear it. Now then, this concerto here, the slow movement, is the exact movement of a gondolier. The bass part is the oar in the water, and the circle that the oar makes in the water. So also it's the movement. So imagine when he was in a gondola, this movement was immediately music to him. Stop.